everyone. In just a second, I'm going to be introducing author Benjamin Ludwig, and this is his debut novel that we're going to be talking about today. And the name of his book is called GINNY Moon. And I am going to try to give him a standing ovation for this book. I have never read a book that has taken over my life the way this one did. Did you ever read a book that it's like you were one way before a book and then a completely different way after a book? That's how this book was for me, okay? And it's his debut novel. Oh my God. So everyone, here is Benjamin. Hi everyone, I am so excited today to be speaking with author Benjamin Ludwig, and we're going to be talking about his debut novel, and he's going to hold it up so we can see it.
Hello everybody, here's the book.
GINNY Moon. I saw there was another cover of this on Amazon, but I'm so happy that you have this one because that's the one that I listened to it on audiobook.
Okay.
And let's just give a round of applause for that woman on audiobook.
Oh, my goodness, Em Emrich, yeah, she's wonderful. Love her. What suspense in her voice, and she really nails the character, I think.
And Ben, I just want to give you a standing ovation. I don't want to stand up because we'll lose picture, but oh my God, I have been so engrossed in this book that I cried at the end. Okay, books do not usually do that. I read a lot of books. Okay, can't even tell you how many books I read. And at the end, I was making breakfast and I'm just crying and. I'm like, what am I going to ask him? What's my first question going to be? How did you do it? How did you bring me to tears on this character? How did you write about this 14-year-old girl that I couldn't get out of my head? It's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, first let me tell you, Michelle, I cried too at the end, but I cried 7 times because I wrote 7 different endings for the book. I found that when I actually got to that last segment, like the last 15, maybe 10 pages, I knew what I wanted to have happen, but the character didn't agree with my plans really. So I just kept working and working the scene in so many different ways. Because as you might remember, it could go pretty badly, right? You know, in that last section. So I wrote it that way and I wrote it the opposite way. And each time was just awful, you know, emotionally to really get through. And finally I found that right sweet spot, I think. And Ginny really, she does what she does. I don't want to give it away.
We don't do spoilers, so
No.
I'm not going to give it away. I'm going to tell you that I loved the way you did it. I mean, I was so, I don't know, I was prepared for the other way, but I love that like I said, I was just like, because I was so afraid of what was going to happen to her, and then, you know.
Right.
I
was with you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how did you come up with this character? How did you come up with it?
Well, 2 things. The first thing is my wife and I, in real life, are foster parents. And in 2009, we adopted a 12-year-old girl who's on the autism spectrum. And I wasn't even writing a book at the time. I wasn't planning to write this book at the time. I started writing this book in 2013. So for 4 years, we had this young lady living with us, and she was our daughter. She still is. She's 22 now. I can't believe it.
Wow.
But
First of all, I thought you were like 25. So
yeah.
So now you burst my bubble on you being 25. But okay.
I'm a little older than that. Anyway, older. But you know, we adopted this kid out of foster care, and she became the center of our world. But because she had special needs, we were very much immersed in this world of autism and foster care and adoption caseworker studies and things like that. So really, I like to tell people I was researching this book for about 4 years, maybe even 5, before I even thought that I should be writing it. So yeah, that's really the background of where the book itself came from.
I knew you had to have had some kind of you know, I didn't know exactly what that would be because I don't have any I have 6 children. You know, I don't have autistic. I don't even have any in my immediate circle. But so I was kind of, when I read about it, I was kind of like, should I go there? Because I don't know if I can. But like I said, first of all, the woman who read the book was, I mean, I drew right into her, and her thought process, I was like, it's so simple. The way you did it, it's like, I started to think I should think like that. By the end of the book, I'm like, it's kind of this simple way. You know what I mean? It's like a very, like, okay, for instance, like when people come at her with 5 questions, I am going to do that from now. I'm going to be like, that was 5 questions. I'm not, if my children come at me with 5 questions, it's like, she's like, that's 5 questions. I'll just smile instead.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. It's a way of, like, I don't know, of not engaging in because she wants peace. And then you find out why she wants peace. But really what she's after is a very orderly, peaceful existence.
Yeah. And one of the things that I love about this character, in writing her was so much fun. But one of the things I love is that she demands what she wants. And she really insists on getting it. Like if her teachers or one of her parents or a therapist asks her too many questions at once or too quickly, she'll simply say, that was too many questions. I don't know which one to answer. So I'm just not going to answer any. And we as readers are privy to that. And sometimes she tells the other person she's talking with, but she doesn't feel that she has to. So she's very much a character who's in control. And just as a adoptive parent and as a public school teacher, kids don't have any control. Well, they have a tiny bit of control in their lives, and I wanted to write a character who would insist on that control and really take it for herself, so that at least one kid could get what she wants.
Right, exactly. Like, I do kind of love that, like, because maybe it was her therapist who was like, don't say stuff to her that you don't mean,
Yeah.
And it's like, how many times do we do that? We'll just do a throwaway statement that we don't mean, and she's like, don't, no, you said, and she takes people literally. Like, if they say something, it is like, gold.
Yeah. That's exactly. Just the other day, I was driving my 2 youngest children home from school, ages 4 and 8, and I was complaining about all the snow we have here in New Hampshire, and I said, "Oh man, I'm ready to move to Florida," and they both said, "No, Daddy." But like you just said, we say these things to kids just off the cuff, just throwing out things that are on our minds, and we don't realize that they do get taken seriously. And so for Ginny, that creates ample opportunity for humor, for an awful lot of drama, and what fun it was to write her. Oh my goodness.
I can't even imagine. Like I said, the way, I mean, you see that it's not a long period of time because you're going date by date by date. And it kind of reminded me of Rain Man, because remember how in Rain Man he would say,
yeah. Sure. Yeah, it's been a while. I remember now, but
I'm that old.
You're right.
I'm just that old, okay? And I remember like that movie. Well, because when that movie came out, autism wasn't a thing back then.
No, it wasn't. Yeah,
it really wasn't. There was no awareness of autism back then.
Right.
And then as we, it was just special needs. It wasn't like categorized, and so Rain Man was kind of our first like, oh, look at that. But the way it was so perfect, like the way you timestamped and the way she kept track of dates and very orderly. And then you realize that kids do that. I mean, if they don't have control of their circumstances, they got to find something that they have control of. And that's one thing she had control of, was like what time it was, what she had to do.
Right.
And it kept her going.
That's true. That might be the one stereotype about autism that's fairly accurate. I like to tell people, everyone on the autism spectrum is really completely different from everyone else on the autism spectrum. However, one thing they tend to have in common is that they gravitate towards and really appreciate and love math. That doesn't mean they're good at it at all. Ginny gets math wrong all the time, but math is consistent. And if you know where you are literally in time, if you know what the date is and the hour and the minute, then that tells you something about where you are and what's going to happen next. And these are folks who have trouble knowing, what's going to happen next, because they have difficulty with communication a lot of the time. But yeah, it's all about dates and numbers for Ginny. She needs to know where and when.
Right. And I think that now that we are so aware, and I'm watching my grandchildren, my kids have children, and they become so like obsessed with like wondering, kind of scared of
Yeah.
and they really pay attention at a very young age as to what they're doing, and if there's anything. Especially my one daughter, she worked with autistic children at a gym class, and so she's always like with her little boys, she's always like, oh, okay, well that's not autistic, and that's not, and I'm like, that isn't something I ever even thought about.
Right.
But in the book, it was like, it isn't scary. I wasn't, and that's what I was afraid of reading it, thinking, well, that's kind of scary. I don't know if I can put my brain there, but but you made it so that it's not scary.
Oh, good. I'm happy about thank you so much. One of the things I wanted to accomplish in this book was to really break down that wall between, people on the spectrum and what we call neurotypical people. I guess that's you and me.
Right.
But people on the spectrum are not all that difficult to communicate with at all. You'll notice them usually, but they're just regular folks.
Yeah, and that's what I love the therapist in the book.
Oh, Patrice.
I loved her because she knew how to talk to her.
Mm-hmm.
And the repetition of saying, now do you understand? Because it's like it has to break through some kind of barrier of understanding, I guess, until she's like, oh, okay. Because in order to switch something up in her mind, it took repetition to switch it up.
Yeah, that's right.
But it was like, and then, we can't talk about the end. But anyway, I just am so happy that I get to tell you, because I want to share this book with everyone. My daughter that I was talking about, she's not a reader. She helps me on my social media, but she's not one of my children that is a reader. And I started telling her about this book, and she was like, I will read that. I'm like, you have to read this book, because, and I want to tell everybody. I mean, well, I love finding these debut novels that are just like, it's like, this is your first book. I looked it up 3 times. I was like, no, it's not. No, he had to have written something else. This is not a debut book. This doesn't sound like a debut book. So I love the opportunity to tell you guys like how great of a writer you are, and like, and to hear like, right, because you need to hear it, and I need to tell you because I'm a reader, and I'm like, oh my God, you need to, like, what else are you doing? What are you doing now? Like, so this is like, okay, this came out last May. I don't even know how this came into my world. And I say that with like such a compliment that I'm on Instagram. That is the only social media that I really pay attention to at the moment. And I think that what happened is it got put on there. And for a year, how many months later, 10 months later, that they're still talking about it. This for a debut book, that is just, I wanted to tell you that because that is the best compliment you can get, is that people are still talking about it.
And I'm so excited to be able to connect with readers like you and all of your viewers. I'm getting quite a few requests for talks and visits, which is wonderful. But the book, you're right, it kind of has caught on. And I just keep putting my head down and trying to get the next book cranked out and talking to folks when I can.
Right. Well, I mean, are you under any kind of book deal for the next one? Like, are you under pressure to write the next one?
Right. No, I have a wonderful agent, and he made sure. I mean, he's been around the block. He's a wonderful agent in New York, and he knew that writers, especially debut novelists, really need time to crank out any book. Never mind the first or the second. So I'm not under contract, which is wonderful. I can just take my time, which I really need. I don't know how other writers do it when they're under contract for another book. I mean, they must just be very experienced, or maybe they don't.
You'll be
saying it as much as I do.
Yeah, when you're 5 books in, you'll be like, oh, you need a book in 6 months? No problem. I'll just write a book.
Oh yeah, I look forward to that. Right now, another book.
How long did it take you to write Ginny?
Ginny was like a real baby. It took 9 months for the first draft. She did. And I set it aside for about 3 months, and then took probably 6 months to revise it afterwards, and then sent it out to the person who would eventually become my agent, and that was that.
I saw that somewhere, and I'm trying to think if it was James Patterson, but I don't want to say for sure it is, but I saw a very famous author say, for your first book, write it and then set it aside, because you'll never be able to look at it with fresh eyes if you go right to the editing process. Now, as you get better and, you start writing more and more and more, but like for your first one, they were like, just put it away and then bring it back, and then you can edit it. It won't be so emotionally attached.
That sounds so accurate to me. It really does.
Yeah, because you're so emotional,
Okay. Yeah.
with it. But I have, okay, so I tried to pick out some quotes that, I had a list. So I went on Goodreads, like every good person does, and I see what else everybody else. Whenever I want to see what I like them better than Amazon for reviews, but I think I don't know, whatever. That's just my own opinion. But I'll go on there to get I'll write down what I think are good quotes, and then I go on there and they have them, and those reviewers are really good about posting.
Oh, they are. They're dead serious about reviewing books, and man, you can really get some insight into your own work.
Yeah, for some reason, I really I do not know. I'll have to ask somebody that does reviewing on Goodreads what the difference is, because it does not translate to Amazon. I don't know why, but the better reviewers are on Goodreads. And so they had two of the same quotes that I had. So I'm like, okay, I'll use these two. The first one was, because this was so good, that still wasn't a question, so I don't say anything. When we were talking about, not only is like the 5 questions, but if somebody makes a statement to her, I'm like, if all of us just did that a little bit more, unless ask for your, for a response.
Make it a question if you really want to know.
Right. Like, how great is that it's almost like the self-control or something, that she was like, well, they're not asking me a question, so she could just blankly look at them. Like,
exactly. And that gives her, part of that is her disability, her inability to communicate in the same way that we do. But part of it is also a very conscious bending of the rules. She knows how other folks are communicating with her, and she knows what they expect from her. But she also knows she can maybe not play dumb, but she can play autistic. She can. I think it's an injustice to say, or to treat people who are on the spectrum, or anyone with an intellectual disability, as if they're somehow absolutely pure and good all the time. These kids are human. Right. And if there's something they need, and Ginny needs something really badly, it's actually life and death.
Yeah.
They're gonna break and bend rules in order to do it.
Right, and she knew in her head.
Up to.
Yeah, it was amazing, because then you see how smart you don't think they're not smart, because it's not about smart or any. Yes. In her head, she was like, okay, is that going to get me anywhere? Like,
right.
Is that really going to get me where I need to be? And like I said, we could all learn a little bit. And then the other one was, so I don't say anything. Instead, I make my shoulders go up and down. Sometimes that means I don't know. And sometimes it's just your shoulders going up and down. I love that. Love that part. So much of this book, like, made me smile. Like,
right.
And then, like I said, the ending made me cry, because I was so invested in her. And I love the ending so much, but it was just like the simplest thing. And I'm like, how, you just wrote the simplest sentence and it made so much sense. So, you're amazing. You're amazing. I don't know what to tell you. But I do love that cover. Show everyone that cover again, because there are 2 covers, and I do love this cover.
The hardcover. Yeah. The hardcover. And let me just see if I have the soft cover right here.
Was that the difference? Because I also saw there was a French cover.
Yeah, there's a bunch of covers. It's been translated into 15 languages. So there's like 15 covers. This is the Slovakian cover.
Oh my goodness.
Which is very, very similar to the British cover. Here's the French. You can see very similar to the American.
Yeah, how do they decide? Why do they do that? I can ask you that. I've never asked anybody that.
Sure. Well, basically every publishing company in the world is a separate publishing company in the world, just because something's published in America doesn't mean that the American cover is really going to suit the needs or the interests of people in, say, Romania or Poland. So those publishing houses that purchase the right to print the book in those countries, they have full control over what kind of cover they want to design. And of course, they've got all kinds of experts who know what their citizens are going to be most interested in. So you can't judge a book by its cover, but the publisher sure puts a lot of stock in how a cover looks.
No kidding. And you know what? I always say that to people, because they'll say, you talk about covers too much. I'm like, really? Because as a reader, I'm sorry, but we see a cover
Right.
And it's like, oh, that's interesting. I wonder what that's about. Oh, that's it. Covers mean everything. And publishing companies invest so much in getting
Oh yeah.
our eye to
Yeah,
be
you bet.
attracted. I mean, they do a lot of studies and they know stuff about like what subconsciously, like why we like certain covers. And I'm sure with that red, because I've been watching things just even about YouTube, the color red, boom. You see a red, you like look,
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
It's true. Red cars get more tickets.
Yeah, that's true. I knew that.
We're just attracted. We don't even know why, but we're attracted to red. So when I
Mm-hmm.
saw that cover, I was like, okay, red book.
Yeah, they all try to tell a story with the cover too. Like on this one.
Oh, that's awesome! I know. How
they've
awesome
got
is that?
they've got little Ginny up in the Jeep, and she's got a ladder, which suggests that she's going to climb somewhere. And of course, there's the backpack. So she's going to run away is what she's up doing in the book.
Yes.
But all of the covers end up telling some part of the story, which is so exciting to see.
Yes. Yes, and sometimes I miss it too. I've had authors point out thing, and I'm like, oh, I didn't even see that. Like, there's the littlest detail, and it's like, it's so cool. Well, you have to tell me when your next book comes out, please. You know where to find me, please.
I do.
Because I want to read it. I want to be one of the first to read it, and I want to talk to you about it. So
you betcha. You'll be first on the list.
Oh, thank you. I feel so blessed. I am so blessed this book came into my life. I loved it so much. So thank you, Benjamin. Thank you for writing it.
Oh, you bet. And thanks for having me, and everybody else. You have a great day, all right?
Yes, I will have all of Benjamin's links listed under here so you can find him, and the book, you'll be able to just click on it over to Amazon. So you have a great day. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye, Michelle.
Bye. Everyone, I don't think I'm going to be able to wipe the smile off of this face today. That was so incredibly fun. I am so blessed that I got to read this book. It is life-changing, okay? And I haven't said that enough, and if you watch the video, I said it enough times, so you know how I feel about it. But I am not kidding. It is that good. Okay. And I am so blessed to have been able to talk to him. I just want to thank you. Thank you, Benjamin. Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for talking with me. And everyone, hit like if you liked watching our conversation. Hit subscribe if you want to see updates to all my videos. And the subscribe button is right there. So thank you guys. Until tomorrow.